Morning, folks. Good morning. Coolest thing about this program.
That wasn't enough energy.
Yeah, it really was.
That sucked. That sucked.
Yeah, give him some energy.
That
Good morning.
sucked.
Morning. Okay, so we have to have energy today. Coolest thing about this Ignite program is it truly does bring the very, 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 very best agents in this market center to share with you how to do this business. That guy right there, Fayaz, is co-owner of the largest team in this entire brokerage. They sell hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes. And so please pay attention, take good notes, ask questions, and absorb today because you're going to learn stuff today you won't learn anywhere else. So thank you very, very much for coming here and sharing with us.
Awesome, man.
Enjoy.
We're going to have fun.
Yay.
Thank you.
Y'all give Fayaz a round of applause. We're going to check back in on that. It's been a good day.
All right, let's go. A little bit about my information in case you need to reach out to me. So my team name is Dream Team United. We are located obviously within the market center, but we have offices off-site. We're a little bit large. This is my cell phone if you need it. So I have an office located right, off Carolina Place Drive off of Lowe's. So on the way to Shutterfly, kind of like we have an office there. We have an office in Riverwalk in Rock Hill. You guys familiar with Riverwalk? We have an office in Spartanburg, South Carolina, which covers the upstate. We have an office in Columbia, South Carolina. We have an office in Greensboro, so we kind of cover that whole Greensboro, Winston-Salem area, the triad. And then we also have an office in Chapel Hill, so we cover the Triangle, Raleigh, and Durham area. So we're all kind of like pretty spread out, right? But my main hub is here. Listen, guys, I was in your shoes. To me, it doesn't seem that long ago because real estate moves so fast. But I started in June of 2015. What is that? 8 years now? Honestly, it doesn't seem that long ago. My story is probably very similar to a lot of the people in this room, or probably a lot of people who've started in real estate, and maybe even worse. I grew up in the Carolinas. Well, I'm born in Tanzania in East Africa, but we immigrated when I was a kid. I grew up in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So I'm a Carolina boy. I went to University of South Carolina, did my undergrad there. And then I moved away from the Carolinas, and I lived outside for a long time. And I never thought I was going to come back to the Carolinas. I went to grad school at Syracuse in upstate New York. I lived in DC. I lived overseas. So I did a lot of stuff, and I was not involved in real estate. My background is in international relations, so it's basically like international politics. I worked as a defense contractor. I worked in the intel side of things for a long time, and that was my career until 2014. And I was like, man, I need a change. And I'm not going back to Washington, D.C. It was really expensive. My parents were still here. And I decided, well, I'm going to come back to the Carolinas. And I didn't have a job. Like, I just quit my career. We moved, I moved in 2015, January. No job. I'd never lived in Charlotte. Even though I grew up in the Carolinas, I'd never spent time in Charlotte. I had never bought or sold a home in my life. I didn't have social media because, I was in the defense contracting world and the intel world. We weren't really supposed to have social media and stuff like that, or very limited. I didn't even have Facebook, nothing, no Instagram, nothing. I didn't have a local sphere, right? Because I'd never lived here. The only two people I knew in this town were two fraternity brothers that I went to college with that I hadn't touched base with in 10 years. And I remember when I reached out to some of these guys, they're like, where the hell have you been? Like, you just fell off the face of the earth for the last 10 years. And now you're reaching out to us about you're in real estate? Oh, okay, cool. Right? I don't have any kids or anything like that. That also helps creating friends and spheres and stuff like that, right? Because you kind of meet people through their activities. Didn't have any of that. So literally I had all the disadvantages that you might have. But I think the advantage that I did have was like, I didn't know any better, right? Like I didn't know like in my head that a narrative of like, well, I don't want to do that because I didn't know what the alternative was. I just did what they told me to do, right? So I really plugged in, and I was in Ignite just like you guys. I took Bold very soon thereafter. Have you guys heard about Bold? So it's basically like Ignite on steroids, right? It's intense, you know, and it can be a lot of information stuff. I still use a lot of my Bold stuff, a lot of my Ignite stuff in my day-to-day, in my current, like when I go to a client, talk to them. My listing presentation is very much like that to this day. You know, I'm one to try to complicate the formula, right? One of the reasons why I chose Keller Williams, because it's a fantastic training company. It's a fantastic company that builds the foundation for good practices. And so that's really why I chose it. And that's really why I still kind of do what we do. We are one of the largest teams, in the market center, yeah, and in the Carolinas. So last year we sold around 325, 330 homes. But I started from zero, right? So I say all of this to tell you guys, like right now, you guys are getting information overload, right? How many times have people like, you're drinking from a fire hose, right? Well, that's what you're doing right now. But you can do this. You can make a career out of it if you want. If you want to build a big team, you can do that. If you don't want to build a big team, you can do that, right? So it's very possible. So today, we're going to talk about winning the sellers. And this is, I'm still, by the way, I still sell real estate, even though I have a big team. I mean, last year, I kind of pick and choose like who I want to work with at this point, right? Last year, I sold like 18, 20 homes, right? And a lot of those people were some of my past clients who came back to me, you know, after a couple of years. So I'm very actively involved in the day-to-day of running my team, coaching, mentoring, selling real estate, and all that. Lead generation is my daily. I guarantee you right now, if you ask any member of my team, even though I'm the boss, I out lead generate them. No one will out lead generate me on a day-to-day basis. Happens every day. But that's why we consistently are growing too, right? And it's really hard when you guys are in your current state. You're like, oh my God, I'm just trying to learn real estate. Now you're telling me to write 10 cars. Now you're telling me to reach out to 20 people. Now you're telling me to do open houses, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's what keeps the business momentum going. All right. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about like winning with sellers and winning the seller. So today's agenda, it's going to be about A sellers. How do we qualify and quantify like what is an A seller? How do we get the appointment? We're going to talk a little bit about the pre-listing package. I'm not going to focus as much on that. The listing appointment, I think, is really important. Like, how do we do that? Like, what does that look like? I remember the first time I went to a listing appointment, I was mortified. I was like, oh my God, this is going to completely screw this up. Like, but that's what happens. In fact, I was telling one of my agents, the first time I did an open house, I was scared out of my mind. The first time I did a buyer consultation, I was scared out of my mind. The first time I did a listing appointment, I was scared out of my mind. And I had all the training. You're still going to be scared, and you're still maybe going to mess up. And you're still going to probably be like, oh my God, it wasn't perfect. And it's okay. It's totally okay, right? Because the first time I went to a listing appointment, I was like, that sucked. But you know what? I got the listing agreement signed, and that's what mattered. And then you get better, and you get better, and you get better, right? And now you just do it with your eyes closed. Like, it's no big deal, right? But it's okay. Listing agreement, and then we're going to talk a little about ahas. Cool? All right. Any questions so far? I do really well in a class that is interactive. So silence doesn't work well with me. If you have questions, ask, because your questions are probably going to be something else that someone else is thinking about, right? So I do like to, present a class that is also anecdotal. Like, I'm not just an instructor who is all about theory. Like, this is real life stuff. I think that's the difference between this class and obviously getting your license. The license is to keep you out of real estate jail. This is to teach you how to run the day-to-day, right? All right. Here's a quote from the MREA. How many of you guys have read the MREA? How many of you guys know about the MREA? Right? You better nod your head yes. You know with it. You're halfway through. Okay, cool. It's on your to-do list. It's actually a really good read. You know, it's not too crazy complicated. It's a great business book, but it's a great, like, the funny thing was, I remember when I was thinking about real estate, I reached out to my friend back in the day. He was at Century 21 in Spartanburg, right? I knew he was in real estate. I was like, hey, I want to meet with you. And I was like, hey, what should I read? And he was like, Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I'm like, wait a second. But you're a Century 21 guy. Why are you telling me to read a Keller Williams thing? He's like, no, but this is like the Bible of real estate. And it's funny, like, he's at EXP now, and he still bases his business on the MREA, right? So this is the book that so many people have based their business from. So while leads are vital to your sales business, seller listings are critical to your ability to build it to its highest level with the lowest cost and the highest net. Okay, anyone want to interpret that for me? What does that mean? There's no wrong answers. Don't be scared. Why are listings critical to building your business to the highest level and the lowest?
Free promotion or like free marketing. If you have like signs in your yard, people reaching out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's one thing. Yeah. Yeah. You get signs in the yard, right? I mean, think about it. You're in the neighborhood. It's like a small little billboard every time the neighbors drive by, right? Right? What else? Anyone else?
If you sell a house, you'll probably get like more referrals.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we're going to dig into that a little bit more. Yeah, it's not possibly just one transaction, right? It can be multiple. Cool. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. A sellers. And to kind of follow up to a little bit what you said, I mean, like, and I think we'll get in a little bit deeper into that. It's also an ability for you to, like, the seller could be a buyer too, right? So that's two potential. Like, every listing should result in multiple pieces of business. That's why it's different than a buyer. A buyer is like one piece of business, right? But the seller could be two, because number one, they're selling the house and then they could buy. If you run an open house, you might get more buyers or you might get more sellers, right? That's from the neighborhood or from people just who are curious and walking around, right? From your marketing that you're doing of the listing, your social media stuff, right? You could be picking up potential people who are like, hey, who are just looking at it. So there's multiple avenues of leads that you could get from a listing. It's funny, on Monday alone, like, we've got a bunch of listings coming on the market. And I was telling my team, and you know, when you're on a team, it's like, sometimes you forget the importance and the value. Like, I value listings so much. To me, they are an asset. Like, you know, it's the most important thing in a business outside of the people in the business, right? Because the listings drive everything else. Okay. So I really focus on making sure that we monetize and we capitalize and market those listings really well, because that leads to more business. All right. Qualified sellers, guys. How do we define it? Well, according to these guys, someone who's able, ready, and willing to do business in the next 14 days, right? 14 days is a pretty short period, right? I mean, that's like less than a month. I think that's really important for us to, like, know that. And sometimes some people would say maybe it's like 30 days, right? Within a month. And this can be a buyer or a seller. So you're walking into someone's house, or someone reaches out to you, is like, hey, I need to put the house on the market like yesterday or tomorrow or next week. I mean, that's a seller. Like, that's like, I need to move. I need to get everything ready. And then B seller is usually like 30 days to 60 days, right? C seller is 60 days to 90 days. And then therefore, why are A sellers the most important? Right. Right. That could be the, I mean, we don't really, one thing that's really important about me is that you will not smell commission breath coming from me. All right. You guys know heard about commission breath? No? No one's talking about commission breath? I promise you, when you work with a buyer or a seller, when you work with a client, when you are so focused on the money, they can read that off you and they can smell that commission breath. And so the way you are interacting with a client will be different when you're focused on commission versus when you're focused on service. Okay? It's really, really important. I'm from the philosophy, and I have been, like, it's sometimes, like, listen guys, it's very easy, like, for me to say, oh, don't worry about it, right? Like, we sold 300 homes, right? It's easy sometimes for me to just say that, but I was in your shoes. I know exactly what it feels like to be where you are right now. How many of you have sold a home yet? Cool. One. How many of you have got buyers right now looking? Cool. Nice. How many of you got sellers right now? One, two. Okay, cool. So you've got people in the rotation, right? But you don't have a commission check coming out except you. You've made the commission already. All right. But when you're working with these clients, like whether it's a buyer or seller, if you're pushing them too much, sometimes they'll be like, why is he or she pushing so much for this? That's like commission breath. Focus on the service. I've been from the philosophy that if you take care of the people with high level of service, the money will come, right? Because they're going to trust you and they're going to sell with you, and then they're going to tell other people that you're awesome, and then they're going to send them your way too. All right? So put some Listerine in your mouth. Get rid of all that shit. Get rid of the Listerine. I mean, you should do that anyways because we don't want to smelly breath. Yeah. All right. Qualified sellers. This is honestly one of the mantras of MREA. The 3 L's. Listing or leads, listings, leverage, right? Why do we lead generate? What's the point of lead generating? To get leads, right? That's your clients, that's your leads. And of those leads, listings, remember, look, notice in MREA, he doesn't say leads, buyers, leverage. He says leads, listings, leverage. Listings are more important. Listen, my first year in real estate, like my first full year, 86% of my clients were buyers. And that's probably naturally going to happen to a lot of you guys, right? Buyers are easier, quotation marks, right? Easier. Buyers, you don't have to have a money conversation, right? A lot of times. You don't have to tell them like, hey, I need you to give me $30,000 to sell your house or $20,000, right? That's a big ask. Buyers are like, oh my God, it's HGTV. We're going to watch 3 homes, and then you're going to choose one of them, and it's going to be awesome, and it's going to be so easy. And we're going to have just a champagne toasting at the end because it's in 1 week we'll go find out. That's what buyers are, right? Right? Sellers, a little bit more difficult. And then listings, as you get more listings, that leads to other aspects of your business, which then leads to leverage. Leverage being, hey, maybe you're doing so well, you need a transaction coordinator. Maybe you need a marketing coordinator. Maybe you need a listing coordinator, whatever that is. Maybe you need a showing assistant, stuff like that. All right. Virtues of seller listings. This is kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, right? Sellers mean more marketing opportunities, which was the first thing you said, right? You have more control over your time. Okay, so who has a buyer right now? Raise your hand again. All right. How many, you have one buyer? How many buyers do you have? Okay, cool. Are they very active?
They gave me like a 6-month timeline.
Okay.
But they've been telling us to cut that in half. So.
Okay, so now we're at 3 months. Yeah. By the way, what's your name?
Leah.
Leah.
Okay. Gabby, sorry.
I don't know. Which one you want me to call you? Leah or Gabby? You tell me. Gabby.
Gabby.
All right, cool. All right, so Gabby. So 3 months. What kind of buyer do we just qualify that as? B, right? Okay, cool. Who has an A buyer right now? Someone who's like looking in 30 days. No?
If our approval comes through, they are.
Okay, cool. What's your name?
Based on Daniel.
Daniel. Okay, cool. Nice to meet you, Daniel. All right, so A buyer, and so you need to get them pre-qualified, right? All right, so buyers who are like, listen, even right now, if you ask me like, how many clients can you handle at the same time? A buyers, man, maybe like 5, 7 is just tough. And I'm talking about, these are people who are like, hey, Fayaz, I need to go see a house this weekend. Hey, Faz, I need like 5 houses this weekend. How many of those can you do in a weekend? I mean, that's tough, right? Maybe you can do 2 or 3 clients at the same time in a weekend, 4 clients. I don't know. You got to really balance your time. And that's in addition to lead generation. That's in addition to kids soccer practice. That's in addition to cooking and cleaning and all the other stuff. You got life responsibilities too, right? If you ask me how many sellers I can take, double, triple, right? A lot more sellers. So what we talk about efficiency of time, I still work with buyers. In fact, I've got a closing coming up next week for a buyer. That's a past client of mine, right? And I'm showing her around. It's all good. But multiply that showing by 5 or 7 times people, it's a lot more difficult. All right. So more control of your time. Seller listings maximize your per hour compensation. That's what I'm talking about. Efficiency of time. If you have more clients that you can handle through listings, that means you're making more money. Your per hour compensation differs than buyers. Okay? Volume, volume, volume. If your per hour compensation, if you have more clients, that means you're making more money. That means more volume, right? With seller listings, you're also at the front end of pricing. That's an interesting statement there. You are controlling the pricing to a certain extent. We had a little bit of difference. I mean, okay, I'll give you an example. Post-COVID, how many guys bought a house during COVID? How fun was that? Not at all, right? I mean, you're on the buy side of things. You're just like hoping and praying. You got 10 other offers and you're just like, please, something. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to give them something that hopefully turns their attention towards me. With seller listings, you're controlling that pricing a little bit more, right? So you're a little bit more proactive versus on the buy side, you got a little bit more reactive. Properly marketed seller listings bring you more business.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Dig deeper is number 5.
Number 5.
In layman's terms, what does that mean? You're in the front end of pricing.
Well, when you walk into the house, right, you're giving them the comps, right? Mm-hmm. You're telling the seller, hey, based on what the market's doing, this is what we're going to price the house, right? And so you're pricing it. You're usually controlling the price. Whether the price is set, even if you have to price decrease. When you're on the buy side, you're reacting to, okay, I'm showing the client a house. This is the list price. And then now I have to react. I either put in an offer that says, yeah, this price is good, and I'm going to put in an offer, or now maybe the price is not right. So you're more reacting to someone else's price. When you walk into a store, there's a price on the sticker. You either decide as the buyer, I'm buying it at that, or that is not it. But you're reacting to the seller's price, right? When you walk into a car dealership, there's a price. Now you have to decide as the consumer, is this the price? And so you're always reacting. The seller is setting the market. Okay? Now, does that mean that you can't negotiate? Of course, you can negotiate for your client. That's part of what our value proposition is. But sometimes you might have less negotiating power. If you had a multiple offer situation, that's why the seller is setting the price, right? Does that answer your question? All right, cool. All right, properly marketed seller listings bring you more business. We talked about that a little bit already, right? Whether you're doing open houses, whether you're doing door knocking, whether you're doing social media. How many guys do social media? How many don't want to do social media? Better not raise your hand. I'm just kidding. Listen, I'm not the most social media guy, right? I mean, I don't know how to do TikTok. Actually, I don't have TikTok. Don't really do reels, but I do Facebook. I do a lot of Facebook, a little bit of Instagram here and there and stuff like that. My number one source of business is social media. For my company, 30% of our business is kind of like social media. And remember, this was a guy who had no Facebook account and Instagram just a couple of years ago. The power of reaching out to people through other means that is cost effective is super important, right? And the cool thing about social media is that you can do whatever you want. There is no formula, right? So, I mean, there's some people here who are like more lifestyle driven. There's some people here who are like, I want to make make a dance. I don't know. Do what you got to do. I don't care. If it brings you business, brings you business. I mean, I'm not going to dance, but that's not me. All right. Seller. Any questions so far, by the way? You guys are so quiet. Come on. Yes. Hi, friend. What's your name? Melissa, what's up?
Where can I find like a good, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for, but a listing agreement, like, where what was in here? Just won't come out of my mouth.
Well, a lot of it is in designs and command.
I haven't been able to find anything.
Yeah. Go into your command. I would say that's what I'm trying to think of where exactly it is.
No,
No,
just
she-
like a listing agreement.
listing.
Like a template?
Like
Yes, a template, that's the word I was looking for.
a listing agreement or a listing presentation?
Yes, like a presentation.
Yeah, in command and designs, they have all that. So, okay, guys, for the first 2 years of my business, I know, like in terms of design and marketing, I know what I like, but I'm not an executor. I don't know how to do it, right? So for me, for the first 2 years, I literally used everything that was the Keller Williams template. And I promise you, the stuff that they have now is way better than what they had back in the day. But I want you guys to not get caught up in the beauty of things. Not that that's not good. Like I'll give an example. Alex Krasnoff, has she taught the class yet? No, that's her husband. Alex is an agent here. We were in Ignite together, so we're like Ignite buddies. And I remember, and Alex is like just design and aesthetics. It's beautiful. Like she just has a touch with it, right? And I remember we were in Ignite, and Alex has these beautiful business cards, and I'm like, oh my God, she's gonna blow me out the water. Just all this pretty stuff, and then like even now, Alex, you go in her office, got the leopard wall print or whatever, and I'm like, if you go into her house, it's all designed to the T. And I'm like, Alex, I love what you do, but I can't do that, right? It's okay. Somebody was actually talking to me about it just the other day. They're like, I'm going to spend all this money. I'm going to make this website and do this and do that. And I'm like, cool. Why? They're like, yeah, well, that's what people need. I'm like, I will show you some websites of some agents in our world, including in this market center, that are like so old school, yet these agents are selling over $500,000 worth of real estate, like in terms of GCI a year. People didn't do business with me because of my website and my business cards and my whatever. They did business with me because of me. Like what I brought to the table. Now, can it help? Absolutely. I think there's a supplement to it. Like if you went on my website right now, that thing is shit hot. Like, come on, y'all. Like it's good, right? It's good. Sorry if I'm going to cuss a little bit. We're not in church, so we're good, right? So my website's good. It's, all that stuff. My design is good. My business cards are good, all that. But that came a little bit later. I use the Keller Williams stuff. Don't overcomplicate it. Every single listing presentation that I did, literally, it was like the same template. I took out like 1 or 2 pages that I thought maybe were a little bit too much. And the only thing I did before I go into a listing presentation, I would change the person's name. Today it was Mr. and Mrs. Smith. The next day it was whoever, Smith Jr. I don't know, right? That was it. They weren't hiring me because of my listing presentation. They were hiring me because of like the knowledge that I had, the value that I brought, the marketing that I could do, the hard work that I was going to give them, and the attention that I was going to give them through that process. All right, so I want you to go into command, and I think it's in designs. You see? Class is already worth it. You've been searching for a whole, I don't know.
Everyone told somebody else to go to the designs, and I looked at them. Then I just literally hit import designs.
See? And I'm telling you, it's a lot prettier and better now than what it used to be. I mean, not it wasn't bad. I mean, it was effective, but that's what matters. It doesn't have to be pretty to be effective. All right. We're going to do the leads conversion. We're going to do the pre-listing. We're going to a little bit about listing consultation. I think it's really important. Servicing and marketing, negotiating offers, and then contract to close. All right, so far, any ahas? You're like, yes! Let's see, what's it look like?
That's what I have.
See? Listing presentation template.
Right? Well, that's all
I mean, and you've got multiple different options. We only had one option back in the day, right? I'm talking about like if it was like in the 1940s. Like, we're not that old.
I'm gonna say, usually used to
Cool.
make you
All right,
my
work.
things, but I'm like,
You can work on that, but not in class. Any other ahas?
Yeah, I like that. I never thought about it. You can handle so much more business when it's from listings as opposed to buyers.
Yeah, part of it is listen. I mean, what's your name? What did you? Letitia. Letitia. What she said was, listen, I can put a yard in the sign, and people are coming to my listing instead of me showing buyers. You know, for that one buyer client, I might have to show 5, 10, 15 homes until we're going under contract. On the listing side, it's it. The business is right there in that yard, right? So now multiply that by 5 homes, 10 homes. You can sit at home and negotiate contracts on the listing side. On the buy side, I got to show homes. That's time, efficiency, dollar per hour. Good, cool. Anyone else? All right, moving on. Again, we talked about today's agenda, getting an appointment. Okay. Some of this is going to sound it's going to seem so elementary, but I promise you, if agents did all of this, we wouldn't be teaching it, right? How do we convert our A sellers? We need to respond right away to inquiries. Guilty as charged. Like, there have been times when there's a lead that's come through and it's just like, right now, okay, like I remember when I was sitting in your seats and I was like, if you had a lead, how would you drop that ball? Like, that's money, right? That's business, that's clients. And I'm telling you, when you get into the world of real estate, like, there's so many balls to juggle. That's why it's really important. And I'm kind of having an aside. How many of you guys use calendars? All right. If you don't, start. Google Calendar, right? If you come from the corporate world, you're probably using Outlook, right? So that's what I did before. How many times did you, if you came from the corporate world, like a meeting request, right? But the problem is, in real estate, it's like we don't take business practices and implement them into our world. What are we individually in this room? We're business owners. We're individually a business owner. So operate your world like you're a business owner. So for me, it was like I just took like all the good practices of the corporate world and put it into my business. So I remember one time I was talking to this like really experienced agent, and we'll talk about contract close a little bit. I was like, oh yeah, so like when I go under contract, when I make when I get the client with an inspection or the closing date or this or that, I just send them a calendar invite with the time, location, etc., and on calendar, and I invite them. And they're like, oh my God, that is the most brilliant idea. I was like, what in the hell are you talking about? It's like, that's like I'm calendar inviting. That's like this basic thing. And this is a person that was doing like $30 million worth of business, $40 million worth of business. And I just blew his mind with a simple calendar invite. They're like, that's so organized. I'm like, okay. So there you go. There's your baseline of real estate agents, like a calendar invite, right? So if you do that, you're already winning. All right. Another thing is just how do we communicate? Text messages, phone calls. Like, make sure your phone is your database or is a database, right? Make sure that stuff is organized. Mine is, I usually get the person's information right away, name, email, all that kind of good stuff. Get valid and complete contact information. Save it to command. Create an opportunity. Again, I came from the corporate world, and my first job, my boss was awesome, and she taught me about organizing my files and things like that. So again, right now, you guys are like, well, I don't have any business. No, you need to organize it right away. Get in there. Learn good practices, because once you start scaling your business, and if you're not have a foundational organization, it gets really unwieldy really quick. I'm telling you this from experience. I promise you, this will happen. That's why a lot of real estate agents lose business. Okay? Also, if you're unorganized, your client is going to feel the unorganization, and that's not a good feeling. Then you got to cover your ass all the time and be like, oh yeah, I meant to sell you that. No, you didn't. You didn't do it. Right? Oh, you show up late at appointments. You know, client doesn't know what's going on in the transaction. It's just all over the place. No. I remember my client, like from contract to close, smooth as butter because they know. They know. And you know what the thing is? Let's say they don't use calendars. Set the expectation for them. This is how it's going to be. You're the expert. You're leading them through that process, right? You're going to tell them how it's going to be. Determine their motivation to sell so you can speak to it. That's super important. Why do people need to sell or want to sell? Give me some. What is it? What is it?
Jobs, divorce, having kids.
Cool. Yeah. Jobs, divorce, life events.
Bigger space, kids,
Yeah.
pregnant.
Yeah. Need a bigger space. Cool. Yeah.
Smaller space, not big down.
Need a smaller space. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. A lot of times people are like, money. Right. One of the things that I don't do is I don't make assumptions. Sorry, one second. I don't make assumptions about why people need to do, why people need to do whatever. So I'll give you an example. I had a gentleman who reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I need you to sell my house." Yada yada yada. I said, "Okay, cool." I go out there. We'd like priced the house, and he was moving to Australia. They were Australian family. They'd been living in Fort Mill for a bit. They were moving back home. He got a job and all that stuff. He was like an engineer, mathematician. She was an attorney, 3 kids, and like, I think a newborn too. So, I mean, busy. And he was like moving first. So he's like, deuces, I'm out. You got a mom at home with 3 kids. She's an attorney and she's got to sell a house and she's moving halfway around the world. You don't think she's stressed? Right? And then when we're going through the negotiation, and I remember like there was something over $5,000. And you know, he's like, dude, I don't give a crap. Like, I need to get my family and my wife in a smooth and easy transition. Get it done. Right? One thing that I learned from my business partner, like I'm a good negotiator. I like to negotiate. I'm Indian. No, come on, we're Indian. We like to negotiate, right? I mean, so like I like to negotiate. But one thing I learned from my business partner was like, hey, it's not about what's important to you. It's about what's important to the client. So sometimes if you might not need to actually push the narrative as much as they want it. That's really important. It's not about what's important to you. It's about what's important to them. Now, with some of my really close clients, I'll tell them like, hey guys, I think I can get you more of this or I can get you more of that. And I'll ask them straight up. I'm like, you willing to go with me or not? And sometimes they'll say, no, we're good, Fayaz. I'm like, okay, cool. If you're good, then we're good. And I always give them the alternative. I'm like, hey, this is what could happen. This is what could not happen. I'm very transparent in my communication with my clients. My clients don't like, they know that I'm the captain of the ship to a certain extent, but they're right there with me too, right? They don't feel like they're being bossed around. They got really good guidance on that. That's really important. Determine what their motivation is. That's on the buy side. That's on the sell side too. Determine what their motivation is. Set an appointment. Set a time. Set a date. Send a calendar invite. That's not on here. I'm just letting you know, right? Yes?
Do you meet them at their home for your listing appointment or somewhere else?
I'm trying to think how many times I've not met someone at their home. It's like very rare. That's me.
Why we go to that? It's not meet them at their home or not necessarily?
There is no right or wrong answer to that. I don't know how to do it by not meeting them at their home. That's me. But I know I have a colleague for a time, their whole company used to have the seller come to the office. And that was, again, you're talking about $ per hour. They're controlling the time spent. I didn't know how to do that. Like, I was like, well, I feel like I need to see the house. I feel like I can't price the house as well. Yes, I feel like I need to see the home. Yeah.
Now, do you do that with 2 appointments where one is like kind of preliminary, you want to see the house?
Yeah.
Talk to them, get to know them.
Great question. Great. Yeah, that's a really good question. Depends. I would say the majority of my appointments are one time. However, sometimes you'll have unique properties or Maybe the house has never been sold before. Maybe there's not enough comps on it and you need to go back and do some more research. So yes, it depends. And if you feel like you need to, like, listen, if we had to go sell a house in Baxter Village, man, there's comps in that neighborhood all day long. The house has probably been sold before. You can see the history of it. Again, that's easy. Like, again, most of these neighborhoods around here are easy. Yeah.
And I'm assuming you're already prepared when you go to your listing appointment, right? Because you've already done your research, you've already know all the information for the most part.
You
So
know why we're
able to do like 2 appointments in one. Essentially, they agree to use you as a listing agent, correct?
You know why we're going to a listing appointment? To get the damn paperwork
Right.
signed. I'm not going there for fun.
Okay.
This is a business meeting.
So would you
I'm
do
absolutely
it
prepared.
there at the listing appointment after they sign, or like do another appointment for that?
It's usually done before, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. See, it's done before. Okay. And then for as soon as possible, you can send a pre-listing packet. We can talk a little bit about that too. I don't want you guys to get too into the weeds of that. All right, what sellers want? Let's talk about that. They want their home priced competitively. I think one of the biggest reasons why they use us is because they know that we have access to the pricing information. Now, listen, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to be like, well, Zillow's telling me this. Zillow's telling me that. And yes, in this day and age, the consumer has access to a lot more information than they did 15, 20 years ago. That is a fact, right? Also, they might be getting marketing in the mail from other agents and stuff like that. They see. People aren't stupid, right? Help seller market the home to potential buyers. For us, that's a value proposition. Like a FSBO can go put the house on the market and probably price it, competitively, but I guarantee you they can't market it like we can. They don't have the reach. Number one, they don't have access to MLS to most of the time, right? Unless they pay someone. Number two, my social media reach is solid. Number three, I'm a local expert. That means there's a lot of other buyers and sellers who know me. Number four, I work with 350 agents just in this office alone who I can market to. Oh, by the way, I'm in a community of 10 to 15,000 agents in Charlotte that also I can market to. Man, that just is different. The marketing reach is different. That's one of the reasons why you pay me the big bucks, right? Help sell the home within a specific time frame. Guys, I don't want you to assume that they want to sell it fast. Ask the question. Why? Like, how many times are people like, yeah, I'm not selling or closing until the school year's over? That happens all the time, right? So right now, you might have sellers who are thinking about selling their house, but they don't want to close until May, June. Right? But then you might have some people who are like, I got to move for a job and I got to go.
How would you do that if somebody told you that you went to a listing agreement, a listing presentation today?
Yeah.
And somebody told you they want to sell, they don't want to close their June.
Cool.
So do you just like wait before you list it, or?
No. Well, you know what? That's awesome, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Well, you know what we can do? We can do a year listing agreement. And in the meantime, listen, maybe I find somebody off market who's interested in your house, and maybe we can even sell it off market. But I'll do all the negotiating, all the marketing for you. I'll do some behind the scenes work. We can't put it on the MLS just now. You're not ready for that because I don't want your days on market to run. But absolutely. I mean, I agree with your timeline. Is there a reason why you don't want to hire me? Is there something else? If not, here's paperwork. Let's get it going.
When do you put it on MLS? How many days out?
Whenever they're ready, or whenever you feel that they're ready. Right? I mean, I got a client right now. I mean, he told me, he's like, I'm not ready to put it on the market for a couple months, but we're still getting a listing agreement signed like this week.
What do you do? Put an extended marketing?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, you can just put the date of the marketing. The marketing date is further out, but they're still hiring you. The marketing date is just listed further out. Okay. Good questions. Anyone else on that? Help seller find ways to fix it up or sell it for more. Guys, this is a huge value proposition, right? I tell my seller, I was like, listen, y'all need to like stop worrying, because they're gonna go into the local neighborhood. They're gonna go on Google. They're gonna go on Angie's List. I need a painter. I need a lawn care guy. I need a this. I need to fix that. I need a carpet guy. That's why you are there. Like I tell my sellers, like, stop worrying about all this stuff and let me handle it. Listen, I'm the general contractor on site. I'm handling it. Why do we hire a general contractor? General contractor is not necessarily doing all the work. They've got subs, right? But they're organized. They're handling the project. That's why they get paid the big bucks, because they take the stress off of your life. They're licensed, they're bonded, they're insured, just like real estate agents, licensed, E&O'd, professionals, skilled. We've got our subcontractors too, right? You've got your painter, you got your flooring guy, you got your everything. And a lot of you are like, no, I don't. Yes, you do. They got the vendor list right here, right in the market center, right? You've got it right here. And if you don't, fake it till you make it. Go find one. There's plenty of them. And if you just ask even in the Keller Williams Facebook page, you see people asking right now. If you go right now, they'll be like, hey, does anyone have a septic guy? Anyone have this person, right? Yes, you've got all the resources you need right here. So you've got all that. Anything else that sellers, yes, for those who have sold your home, anything else that I'm missing here? No? All right. Build confidence and trust. This is so important. So important. I mean, it's all about rapport. I take my job seriously, but I don't necessarily take myself seriously, and my clients feel that. I'm a very relaxed guy when it comes to with my clients. Whether it's buyers or sellers, I tell them, I was like with buyers, man, we're gonna have fun, right? And if you are relaxed and less stressed, they are gonna be relaxed and less stressed, because then they're gonna be like, man, he's got it or she's got it. I don't need to be I need to chill and just relax and let it go with the flow, right? Because moving and real estate transactions are stressful, right? Moving is a bear. I mean, moving is the thing that I probably hate most, and it's my job to convince people in my world to make them move. Isn't that ironic? It's I got to convince them to do the thing that I hate doing most myself. I mean, I'm about to move in a couple months, and I'm thinking about it. It's actually a running joke in my office, because the last time I moved, it took me so long that they still laugh about it. They're like, you're the worst mover of all time. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm just I'm a diva. I can't handle it. I got to have people do it for me. I can't handle it. Hate moving. So anyways, your job is to build that confidence. For me, on the buy side, man, it's fun. It's come on. It's let's make it HGTV. Let's have fun, right? We're not like the show, but we can make it like that. On the seller side, they're super stressed. All they're thinking about is, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Your job is to tranquilo, chill. It's going to be good. I tell my clients, listen, whatever questions you have in your head and whatever worries that you have in your head, you need to just communicate that with me. And again, you guys are new, and I know you're probably thinking, oh, I don't know the answers, and I'm not going to have the answers. That's okay. Just say, hey, I don't know the answer to that yet, but I'm going to get back to you on it. Right? It's okay. Transparency in a relationship, whether it's your husband and wife or whether it's your client, is very important, right? This is no different. You're going to be very close to them for the next 30, 40, 50 days, whatever it is, right? So I tell them, whatever worries that you have in your head, I would rather you just tell me, because I probably already have the answer to it, because I've done this transactions, right? Or I'm an experienced real estate agent. I know the answers. You just got to tell me. And when you communicate that, building confidence and trust to a client, the transaction just becomes so much easier. And then they start oh my God, she took care of me. I didn't have to worry about this. I need to refer everybody to her, right? That's what it's all about. It's building rapport. Show the benefits. So these are 7 types of appointment tactics. I really like the assumptive close. That's have you guys heard of that one? I got taught that in Bold. So when I'm at the listing appointment, you're talking about hey, they're a couple months out. By the way, what's your name? Rusty. All right, Rusty. So one of the things I like to do is on the assumptive close is before I even pull the paperwork out, I'm already telling them Well, when we sign today, when we sign the paperwork today, like we'll get all these things going, right? I like that a lot. And you know what? And some people are like, oh shit, he's already assuming that he's got me as a client. I'm like, yep, that's why it's called an assumptive close. Right? I really like that one. But I think it's like you can make fun of it too, right? You can I make fun of myself at the table, and it's like we're joking around, we're playing around, we're having a good time, right? One of our biggest challenges as real estate agents, and especially when you are in the position that you're in, is that yeah, sure, absolutely. One of the biggest things that we don't do is we don't ask for the business. You know, oh gosh, I forgot her name again, but here she is. She's got this beautiful presentation. She's got all the comps. She's got the CMA. She's doing all the work. Everything's good. And then she's like, okay, I'll see you later. Right? Because you're scared to ask for the business. Guilty as charged.
I do this sometimes when I have a conversation with people like, this is rolling over there, and that's rolling. I thought I had a good opportunity to talk to them, rather than a lot of people rolling. I'll talk to them and they bring up real estate and talk to them about real estate, and then get them talking and walk away, and I'm like, gotta get a phone number.
Yeah.
Which is over the most important part, right?
It is. It is.
It's just something, I just gotta get used to doing that.
It is. It takes practice. It's a muscle, right?
Yeah.
Like, trust me, it's taken me a while, and it was one of my biggest weaknesses at a listing appointment, where I would do all this stuff, and I'm ready, and we're building rapport, and we're good, and I was like, I couldn't pull out the papers, couldn't pull them out, and I remember one time it was like a client was ready, and I still was like, oh, I don't want to pull it. I'm like, you idiot.
Did you lose the listing or did he call you?
No, I didn't lose it, but I was just like, but that was a waste of time. Then I had to go back to the house again. They were ready to sign right then and there. I'm in my own head. Right? Like, ask for the business. Like, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, listen, I've shown you like what we're going to be able to sell the house for. Obviously, we're going to work through a timeline that works for you. I've shown you the value proposition of the marketing and the social media and all the things that I'm going to do for you. This is how much it's going to cost. Obviously, we're going to have a commission conversation possibly if they ask for it, right? Maybe sometimes they don't. Do you know how many times clients are just like, they don't even care. They're like ready to go.
Do you already have like a set commission number that you sell of your listing appointments, or does it depend on the property?
Well, there's no such thing as a standard commission.
Yeah.
So I'm going to preface it with that. I mean, it depends on what it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for me, like, you know, we're 6%, right? I mean, that's usually, but like, I don't put it on my paperwork.
Right.
You know, I that's a pretty strong assumption there. And sometimes people will take offense to that. Some people will put it on the paperwork already, like, hey, this is what I charge. It's what you charge. It's your business, right? Yeah.
Does that 6% get split? Is that the split one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But the seller's paying the 6%. But the seller,
Right.
again, I'm saying
Okay.
but it could be whatever that number is, because I don't want to get in trouble here.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever that number is,
Yeah.
the seller's paying it. Okay.
This is the-
And you need to tell them like, hey, this is what I charge, and you can compensate the buyer side whatever you want, right? Whatever you want. And hey, here's what's going on in your neighborhood, and this is what people are compensating. Yeah.
This might be a little off topic, but like when they get their appraisal and inspection and everything, do they pay that, or does that come out of our?
Buyer pays for appraisal. Buyer pays for inspection.
If you don't
Hold on, right, real quick. Yep. Go ahead.
So how are you handling the objection of like, well, I talked to another realtor and they said they'll do 5%.
Yeah, I mean that's a great conversation. I mean, I think, you know, and I've gone up against that so many times. It's all about your value proposition. Okay, cool. Thanks, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Like 5%. What is that? What is that about? Like, is that what's really? Why is that important to you? Remember, we're talking about what's like. You need to don't just get defensive against it. Ask why that's important to them. I think it's really important, and see how they qualify that. Sometimes they've just been told, oh, you can. People sometimes ask the question and just to ask the question. right? How many times have you been in a situation where, like, if you don't ask for a discount, you ain't gonna get a discount, right? And so sometimes they're like, well, if I don't ask, I ain't gonna get it. So sometimes I've just been like, no. No is an answer. You'll be surprised how many times you're like, no, I charge 6%. Period. Stop talking. Move along. I very rarely even have to have a commission conversation. And this because I don't focus on the money, I focus on the value. When you walk into a Ritz-Carlton, are you asking how much things cost? When you walk into a Nordstrom, are you asking how much? Why? No, you're focused on the amazing service that you get. And you know you're going to pay for it, and you ain't ever going to ask for a damn discount, are you? If I go into a Motel 8 versus a Ritz-Carlton, we're talking about two different things. Right? You provide high level. That's why I said at the beginning of this class, if you provide high level of service, the money will come. They don't think about it. They're not worried about it. Right? So it's a mindset shift, guys. The value proposition of what you provide your client, which is, let's go back to this. This is part of your value proposition. It's asking, what do sellers want most from their agent? They're telling you what they want. Well, that's what you need to provide at a high level. You provide that, again, when you go into a Ritz-Carlton or Four Seasons, you go to Disney, right? I mean, come on, the level of service at a Disney resort. But, huh?
I go there like every
Do you? Okay, I don't know. No, but I'm just saying, like, what is Disney known for? Like, really high level of service, taking care of the parents, but taking care of the kids. I mean, they're not stupid. They're literally business like models set around this. All right. Good question. You had a question too.
Yeah, if you don't put it in the contract, at the end of the day, they'll say, well, okay, I'll just pay you, won't pay the other one.
Well, you have to put some kind of compensation in the contract. I mean, it can be zero. You have to put something.
Have you ever struggled with that, like a seller not wanting to compensate the buyer side?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
I haven't. This is a new thing that's come up. You know, I'm ancient. I haven't had to deal with that yet. This is new. This is a new challenge in our industry. Yeah.
I said, I don't know this. I don't know anything about anything, but a long time.
Don't say that. You know something about something.
A little bit about something. A long time ago, we had that, but I was explaining. To the buyers that, the seller, like, this is what, I compensate the seller, the buyer, because we need their help to sell your home. Like, I don't know if that's kind of like we split.
I think you have to be careful. Like, you can say that, yes.
No, like not the words aren't exactly, but the concept of trying to explain it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they feel like, why am I paying somebody? Why would I pay them to bid against me, kind of thing? And it's explaining like how it's like a really symbiotic relationship to get.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can bring up the concept of like, hey, here's what your competition is doing in the area. And so if you have some sellers who are compensating on the buy side and you're not that Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I can't control if someone is going to show your house because or not because of compensation. They're not supposed to do that, but I can't control that.
Right.
So
like if they see there's like a 1% comp,
yeah,
or 2%, they're not.
they shouldn't do that. The buy side should not. Ethically, it's not allowed. The Realtor Code of Ethics, it's not allowed. But I don't control that.
But what was this recently passed that you're talking about how it has changed and not required anymore?
Well, that's what we're talking about. I mean, like, but what we're talking about is like kind of like best practices in the sense of like, okay, if I'm listing a house in Baxter, right, and I'm at 0% buyer compensation, and everyone else is like 2.5%, 3%. Well, possibly. I mean, listen, I don't want this to be a compensation conversation. Number one. Number two, I don't want to be a conversation about like it has to be this way because everything is negotiable. In the end, if the seller says, hey, I'm going to do a zero compensation, well, then they can do a zero compensation. You just have to set the expectations to that seller to be like, well, this could be the result of that. And are you okay with that? And if they say that's okay with that, okay, cool. Then let's go. This is what I charge. This would be my fee. And you can compensate the buyer however you want. Just have a clear conversation. This is what we're talking about. When a question is asked, answer it. When an objection comes up, address it. This is how you build confidence. I think so many times, like in our industry, especially when you're newer, we're scared. And that's natural. You know, like the commission conversation is really, that's one of the hardest ones, right? Because again, you're asking someone to pay you, depending on the price of the house, you know, 20, 30, whatever $1,000, right? To sell a house and write a check. I remember one time, you know, to your question, I mean, like this was it was like maybe my first or second listing ever, and it was in my neighborhood. It was a nice house, and they were like, no offense, but they were like New Yorkers. They were like, boom, giving it to me, and I'm over here, and I'm like, and they're like, what's your commission? And I was like, oh my god, what do I say? Like literally internally, I was like 6%. I was like just blurted it out. And they're like, okay. And then they wanted to kind of negotiate it a little bit. I said, well, let me tell you again what my value proposition is. And I remember I left the house and I was like, I didn't get it. You know, they were like more experienced in real estate than I was at the time because they'd sold homes and stuff like that. And then they called me at the end of the day. They're like, we're choosing you. The value proposition was more important, and it always is more important. It's how you express the value and how you like relay that. These are tough conversations. Yeah, sure.
In your value proposition, do you bring up like your not just your real estate experience, but like maybe why you're a little different as far as like what your strengths would be?
That is your value proposition.
Sorry?
That is your value proposition.
No, okay. I'm saying like for you specifically, do you
Sure.
bring in it like your background experience of other things, or like
You can.
does that matter?
You know, they talk about mirror and matching.
Yeah.
If you feel like it helps. If I've got a guy
Who's like had been in your industry or something.
hell yeah, I'm bringing it
That's what
up.
I'm saying.
Hell yeah, I'm bringing. If I've got a guy who's like former military sitting across the table from me, I'm gonna be like, bro, I get you. I know where you're coming from. I can relate to you. Like, right? It's a human interaction conversation, right? If you're, I mean, I don't know. Okay, another example. I told you I went to school at University of South Carolina. I've got a Gamecock right there. Let's go, baby. Right? I've got a Clemson person. I'm like, you suck. And we might joke about it. But I have fun with it. Like, again, that's what I do. Like, if I got a Clemson guy, I'm like, oh. Like, I don't actually think the person sucks. We're just going to have fun with it, right? We might talk a little about football instead of real estate all of a sudden. I'm going to break down barriers, right? So it just depends. Yeah, I think you should. This is part of rapport building confidence, and then the value proposition is the actual business side of things. Listen, that's funny. The funny thing is, you know, I talked about like negotiation as a value proposition. Do you know how many times I've said that at the table? I'm like, yo, I'm Indian. I like to negotiate. You know how many times they've laughed and they love it? That might make some people uncomfortable. I don't care. I'm talking about myself. I'm making fun of myself. I'm self-deprecating. And they're like, hell yeah, I want a strong negotiator. And Indians are known to negotiate. Sign me up, baby. I mean, like, there's nothing. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It might make some people uncomfortable. That's my style. I like to connect with people, right? So I'm breaking barriers very quickly. All right. Any questions? Ahas? Are we learning anything? Maybe not. You're quiet. You're quiet. It's all good. Everything okay?
Yeah, and 13-year-olds, yeah. It's gonna take all the stuff in. I just got my license last week.
Okay.
Haven't been with the firm just yet, but God invited me to see
Yeah.
the last was.
Okay. No, it's a lot. It's a lot. You know, it'll come. Cool. All right. Any ahas? All right. Pre-listing package. I'm going to focus a little bit less on that. I mean, pre-listing package is something, is basically what, let's say you get an appointment, right? I want to focus on one, like you can actually send stuff in advance to their house before you even get there. Like you can send a package that has like the disclosures that they can fill out. Maybe like a document that asks them, hey, what do you love about the house? Like, what do you love about your neighborhood? What do you love about, like, write all that out so that by the time you get into the door, a lot of that stuff's fine. It gives them some homework. When you give a client homework, especially a seller, it also shows their motivation level. If you walk in the door, you gave them homework, nothing was filled out, they're like, oh man, I think maybe they're not really that interested in selling. Maybe they didn't connect with you on the phone when you made that appointment. But if it's filled out, all of a sudden, like one thing you can do is like, hey, for the appointment, make sure you have 2 sets of keys ready. If people have 2 sets of keys ready, man, they are ready to sign. Let's go. Right? Another important thing on pre-listing package, let's see where we're at. I like to ask, like when I'm on the phone, I like to ask questions like, again, like you can find some of the information, but there's so much new construction around here that some of these houses have never been sold or were never listed on MLS. So I might be walking into a house where I don't know anything about it. So I'm going to try to get as much information on the front end. Hey, how many bedrooms and bathrooms are there? How much square footage do you think is in the house? Have you done any upgrades to the house since you bought it? You know, what do you love about the house? Like, et cetera, et cetera. Like, tell me about some of the finishings in the house. All of a sudden, I'm collecting information. You're talking about the CMA. It's a lot easier to do CMA when you've got this information. In addition to that, I'm also asking them, hey guys, where do you want to move? Why do you want to move? Maybe they want to move locally. All right, now you got a seller and a buyer. Now you know that, okay, then you can have another conversation. Okay, cool. Tell me what's important about the buy. Do you need to sell the house are you contingent or non-contingent? Do you have a lender? Do you not have a lender? Boom, boom, boom. These conversations just start going, right? You're asking deep questions that by the time you get into the appointment, it's easy peasy, right? That can be part of your pre-listing.
Can you get that on command?
I don't know if they have that on command. Some of this stuff, I bet you, I'm not sure about that one. I think you can probably like just maybe Google it and just see if like there's like pre-appointment questionnaire or something like that. And it's the same questions usually over and over again. You know?
You know what, on Pinterest, I don't know if you're open to Pinterest, but if you just go to real estate agent stuff on Pinterest, there's so many templates, like they look
Yeah.
really all cute and everything ready to go, and like checklists, and like questions to ask and all that. Just look at Pinterest.
Yep. You might have it in command, and you can have stuff like that, like she's talking about too. You might have it on command. I'm not sure. Yeah. So here's your pre-listing packet goals. Okay, like we want to build the seller's confidence. Again, that's what we're talking about, right? Like you start asking these questions, they're like, okay, cool. Like the most important thing is to build that rapport and for the seller to understand that you actually care about what is important to their family and their goals. Answer their questions and objections before the presentation. Again, if they ask a commission question on the phone, which some people do, what I usually do is like, listen, I'm absolutely happy to have that conversation. Let's have that conversation when I get there, because I really want you to see kind of like what we have to offer first, and then let's see what we got. I really, really don't want to have a commission conversation over the phone. I don't want to have that conversation before they've met me and before I'm there in person and stuff like that. Okay? Save time. Like I said, if you do this well, even if you do it half, you still collected a lot more information before you've ever entered in the door. It's going to give you more confidence when you walk in the door. Because I promise you, when I walk into a house where I don't know anything versus when I walk into a house where I know at least something, my demeanor also is different. And so my approach is different. And then my ability to get the business is different. That's me personally. Yes?
Do you ever just email them the packet so they can fill it out and return it to you right away?
You can. I think like disclosures and stuff though, man, those are a little bit more complicated. Most times the disclosure is either filled out and waiting for me at the table, or I'm helping them fill it out right there on the spot. Like not like they're filling it out. I'm just answering questions that they might have, because we do this on a daily basis. They don't. Like a lot of the stuff, like the legal language and stuff, they don't understand. So I don't want them to get confused and overwhelmed. So save time, makes the consultation experience smoother and shorter by tackling the common obstacles. Agree. State your value. Tell the seller what you bring to the table. And again, we've talked about a little bit about that. I think you'll do a little bit more about that, when you're actually at the table. But you can absolutely, you can talk about, again, if you have like someone in your neighborhood, I mean, that's going to be a little bit easier. Hey, I live in the neighborhood. I really know it well. Or if you're a Fort Mill person, like Fort Millionaire, I guess, then you'll be like, yeah, I know Fort Mill. Like I lived here for 10 years, blah, blah, blah. Like you create that rapport, right? And then you're going to talk about, I know the community, I know the neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera. This is not about like in this current state that you guys are in, it's not about your lack of experience. We're not focusing on that, right? I mean, one thing that I really used to use a lot in my listing appointments is what Sandra shares every month at the team meeting, is the lore. That was one way I supplemented my lack of experience, by using that to say, hey, especially here in York and Lancaster County, which is probably going to be where the most of your business is going to be, right? I'd say, hey, listen, by hiring me, you're hiring the #1 real estate brokerage in York and Lancaster County. We have 12% of market share here. And that means that your house is going to get more exposure and possibly a higher price than where we're at. The lore I used a lot. Listen, the lore, language of real estate. She shares it every month. But listen, I might not use it, but I know it. So even verbally, I can say the same thing, right? Know your data a little bit. I think sometimes like it's also important that you know the information. You guys should be like looking at MLS on a daily basis, kind of seeing the data and the statistics. I mean, if you're walking into the neighborhood, again, we're lucky here that getting comps is a lot easier than some like rural areas and stuff like that. I mean, you can show them a trend line of what's been going on in the X neighborhood for the last couple of months. Like, be a little bit more data, be a little bit more intellectual about this. I think like that's like, if you put a little bit more effort into the data, walk in, and then you're just yourself, like the chances that you're going to get your listing appointment, because like they see that you know what you're talking about and they like you as a person, cool. All right. That's really winning the game right there. Pre-listing packet criteria. Will you review it at the listing presentation? I do. Because I want to confirm what they wrote is the facts. And maybe they misunderstood a question or something like that, right? So I want to like, is this what you actually meant? Sometimes, okay, I mean, I'll give you an example. Like maybe they tell me that, hey, I have wood floors. Okay, do you have like wood floors, or do you have like laminate floors, or do you have LVP, or do you have engineered hardwoods? 4 different types of wood floors. Sometimes the average consumer does not know. In fact, I don't know how many times I walked into the house and they don't know. You know what I do? Okay, you got that kind of floor. Or from the age of the house, or from the price point of the house, right? You're probably not going to have wooden floors in a $400,000, $500,000 house nowadays. It's probably going to be laminate or LVP, right? Or maybe even engineered hardwood if you're lucky. Well, if you go into a $1 million, $2 million home, okay, you might have some on-site hand-hewn wooden floors. These kinds of things. Does it eliminate the need for a listing consultation? In my opinion, no. I think it makes it easier. Is it a primer for education you will provide at the listing consultation? I believe that, because you're kind of setting the foundation for what you're going to help them walk through. This is all about information gathering. Okay? Any questions on that? So this is like, again, a pre-listing packet. I think this is in command. I know you asked that question. And then you've got obviously some of your disclosures and stuff. You've got the disclosures available obviously on them through your .loop documents. You can deliver the pre-listing packet. There's a couple of ways. Look, I mean, you can hand deliver it. Just put it on there and just tell them, hey, listen, I put something on your front porch or something like that. I mean, some people, like with some of the big teams, man, we don't do this, but they've had an Uber driver deliver it. They had a FedEx deliver it, you know, because they're doing like efficiency of time, right? They've had a FedEx deliver it. I remember one time, dude, this was so good. I was so proud of myself. I'm still proud of myself. So I remember I was actually on call duty, and I got a call, and the lady wanted me to come to, you know, they want to sell the house. It was in Reed Point, right off, right? Okay, cool. I've never even been in that neighborhood. Yeah, I know it, love it. It's great, love it. So you know what I did? So a couple days before, I went, checked out the neighborhood. I knew their address. I knew some information, right? Knew the address. Saw he had a Tennessee Volunteers flag. Cool. I'm an intel guy. I collect information. This is my job, right? All right. So he had a Tennessee Volunteers flag. I looked in the neighborhood. Okay, cool. Looked at the comps. You know what I did? And at that time, we had a vendor here who used to do little baskets. I said, I need you to create a whole Tennessee Volunteers basket. Dude, I had that guy when I walked in the door, when I had handing him a Tennessee Volunteers basket. See, it's the little things. And I had competition. They were interviewing multiple agents, but it's service, right? This was a guy who was like a little bit rough around the edges. When I gave him that Tennessee Volunteers basket, it was melted. That $50 basket got me a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 commission check. These are the little things, service, right? So I don't do that anymore, but it's important. I think for you guys, like, drive to the neighborhood, get to know it. Like, don't just show up on the day of the appointment, like, and then you're nervous. Like, I felt more confident knowing I had that little basket, right? And then and then she's great. And you know what? I got them on the referral too because they were moving to Augusta, Georgia. So I was another referral. I got to check on that too. Cool. All right. Confirm the time, date, location. Again, calendar inviting. Something that agents do that is really stupid? They don't show up on time. Like, what a great way to make a terrible first impression. Like, just show up on time. And show up on time means, like, get there 5 minutes early. Don't get there 20 minutes early because mom might be, like, running around trying to get the kids ready and waiting for, she's like, whatever. What do they got to do? Ensure all decision makers attend. That's really important. So who are the owners of the house? Who are going to be making the decisions? Listen, I do ask that question, actually. I ask it in that way. Are all the decision makers who are a part of this move going to be at this meeting? And sometimes they're like, oh, no, my spouse is going to be working or, whatever. I'm like, okay, well, let's set a time when both of you guys are there. That's really important because I don't want the right hand to not be communicating with the left hand. And then you know what happens? Then you have to feel the pain in the middle. Complete and practice your listing presentation. You can do that beforehand. Listen, find an Ignite buddy. Role play it with them. If you guys are in coaching, right, you can do that too. Review the lead sheet. This is when they called in, you're asking all the information. Like, get that. Arrive to the listing presentation in a professional manner. So, dress appropriately. I hate that I actually have to say that, right? I think, how were you dressed when you worked in another job? this is a job. And oh, by the way, they're about to possibly write you a check for tens of thousands of dollars. Show up like it. You know? Now, I mean, like in the beginning, I mean, I was suit and tie. That was me. Right? And then I partnered with my business partner. He's like, man, I ain't doing no damn suit and tie. But I still like to dress up. Like at minimum, I'm going into a listing appointment with dress pants, you know, nice shoes, dress shirt, blazer, right? Dress shirt. Now, if it's one of my OG clients, I'm like, dude, it's funny. I actually sent one of that closing. I sent her a meme, an Instagram reel the other day. It was like, the first time I met you, I was in a suit. The second time I met you, or this time, I'm like, we're in shorts, we're in flip-flops, we're in a backward hat. And she just started cracking up because it's true. Like, she's one of my OGs. Like, she's always going to come to me and we have fun with it, right? So I sent it to her. I was like, this is how we are now, right? She's like, yes, that's how we are now. I was like, all right, cool. You know, I mean, even like one day I remember I have one of my other clients. He's like done so many transactions with me. We were walking to $1 million house. And he's an attorney here. He's pretty well known. And I'm coming in like shorts and flip-flops. And another agent, they were like, hey, are you showing the house or are you trying to buy the house? I'm like, that's my client right there. We're chilling. We're relaxed. But that rapport was built over time. That is not how I showed up to him the first time, right? You know, and he knows how it is. He's like, dang, dude, you dressed out. I'm like, yes, we are. We're good. Do as I say, not as I do. All right, so yes, dress appropriately, right? And whatever's comfortable for you. Like my business partner is not going to get like me, right? And here's another thing. We mirror and match, right? I'm not going to get dressed up like in suits and stuff if I'm going out. Like I remember one time there was this guy who owned a chicken farm and it was like 50, 60 acres. If I go up dressed up in a suit like that to that guy, he's going to be like, who the hell, why are you here? Like you are not my type of guy. So me and my business partner went in his truck, jeans, boots, shirt, whatever, you know, we were professional, but like match that, right? Yeah, it was a $1.5 million property, but I don't need to be in a suit and tie for that. So mirror and match the client, mirror and match the property too. Ahas. I'm not leaving until I get some.
I mean, the whole pre-listing packet, I had no idea.
It's all about collecting information. It makes your life easier. And a lot of agents don't do it. So you'll be actually an outlier and different. Yes, sir.
I think using the lore in your listing presentation,
Yeah.
especially when you're new,
Yeah.
you can use like everyone behind you as like your, like, yeah, I have 350 agents and we have this market share percentage. Like, you can use all that to your advantage as opposed to your advantage.
100%. 100%. Use the data. Like, listen, you know, use the data to your advantage. Use it to your listen, I use the lore for, I don't go on as many listing appointments, man, but I use the lore for at least 2 years plus. It was in my listing presentation. It's really, to me, it was really important, but I mean, some people don't want to use it. You know, it's up to you. Anyone else? More ahas?
The lore was definitely a big one, and I can tell
Yeah.
your clients before meeting with them, like this volunteer package, I like that.
Yeah. Now, be careful. Don't overspend money just to like get business. But like, I think those kinds of things are helpful. It makes you stand out. It makes you connect. Like, oh man, this guy actually like cares and is perceptive, you know? And we're having a little fun, right? I had one lady, and I was working on her for a month. And I remember it was the first time I ever walked into $1 million listing appointment. And I didn't have any business. Well, no, actually I did have a business. I had all the business working in there. And I had been working on her for a month. I picked her up from an open house and she was like literally across the street. Husband was a CEO, you know, of a company. She was sweet as could be. I worked on it for a month. I got in. I found out about Auburn. The kids were at Auburn. Got my Auburn basket. Here we go. Right? And I was dressed suit and tie. I was ready to go. And I had this whole presentation ready. And I didn't get it. And they chose another agent, right? And you know what she said? She's like, hey, you were great, you know, and she felt really bad. She's like, we want to give you the Auburn basket back. I'm like, the hell what am I going to do with the Auburn basket now? I'm like, no, you keep it. No, you keep it. She felt really bad. She's like, no, you're really sweet. And we really appreciate you. You did a great job. And you know what? The agent that they chose was a great agent. I can't hate on him. I wish I would have gotten it. But actually, the next day, I had the Tennessee listing appointment. And I could have gotten down on myself for not getting the $1 million listing appointment. But literally the next day, I remember I had the Tennessee one and I got that one. And I said, you know what? Every failure, you learn from it. And the next day I got one. So, you know, we're good. And if I walk into a $1 million house now, will I be nervous? Yeah, I'll be nervous. You know, it's just kind of like, I look at it as like a sport. If you're an athlete, oh man, we're loud. If you're an athlete, like you probably should feel some butterflies before every game, right? It kind of gives you like, you know, you're in it. Same thing. If I go into a listing appointment now, some are more comfortable than others. You know, some neighborhoods I don't know as well, so I'm going to feel those butterflies. Some of the neighborhoods that I know well, man, I can price that house for you before I walk in the house. I know it. Just you'll get that confidence. Okay? Anything else you want to share? Okay. Listing appointment. Okay, cool. Let's talk about that. And it's 11. What time do you guys end? Whenever I do? All right, cool. All right. Wow. Let's go. All right. Create a great impression to build a seller's confidence in you as a real estate agent of choice. Again, you've already been doing some of that. You had a great phone conversation with them up front, pre-listing package. You're already building that rapport. Share your price recommendation. This is what the goal is, right? What we're trying to do at the listing appointment. Share a price recommendation, the initial list price for the house, and your reasoning behind it. And then set expectations for how you will market the home and work with sellers. All right, so that's what we're trying to do at the listing appointment. Let's see. We talked about like the listing template. I think you guys can use that. Don't overcomplicate it. You know, you've got plenty of great stuff. You know, select it based on your personality and what you think works for you. I think you guys really need to understand and believe in this. Like, I'm knowledgeable, I'm caring, and the best agent for the clients. Like, we talk about positive reinforcement. We say that to our kids, right? You're amazing. You can do anything you want to do. But how do we talk to ourselves?
You suck.
Right? Would you tell your kids that? You're like, well, some of them need to hear it every now and then. Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So let's take the teenagers out of the equation. How do we talk to the babies and the little ones? Like, you're great. You're awesome. You can be anything you want to be. Like, you're so smart, even though you do stupid shit sometimes, right? See? Okay, cool. But how do we talk to ourselves? Right. I think it's really important that you guys understand that you are the best agent for them. Notice I corrected myself just a few minutes ago. When I said, I just did it to myself. I said, I had no business. And then I corrected myself. I had no business being $1 million. Yes, I did have every business. You know why? Because I worked for a month and a half to get in that door. I had every business to be in that door because I worked for it and I deserved it. So I did it to myself just now. And we do that all the time, you know, whether we're in real estate or not. So I think really, like, looking yourself in the mirror, like, man, pump yourself up. I don't care, whatever it's got to be. Like, my business partner, before he gets in the listing appointment, he's like blasting like freaking heavy metal. It gets him pumped up. Like, my other listing agent, she's so funny. Shannon Cole, I don't know if y'all remember. She's like a 5'0" little blonde. We call her the blonde bomber, right? She's blasting gangster rap like that's her. That it gets her going. Whatever it's got to be, get yourself. Got to go get a workout going beforehand? Go do your workout. Shower. Shower before a listing appointment, but I'm just saying, okay, don't be smelly. All right. They're going to appreciate your expertise and preparation. They're going to choose me to represent them as they sell their home. These are positive reinforcements. Okay. All right. So listing appointment, we're getting there. We talked about, again, like how to get in. I want to backtrack a little bit. I want to go a little boldish. So the first thing I do, I get there on time. A lot of times I will actually get there beforehand. So for example, you might not know, maybe they're interviewing another agent. Maybe there's another agent. Respect that. So like I like to go into the neighborhood. If I've already not checked it out a couple days before, I'll drive around a little bit before. Hey, where's the clubhouse? What's the location of the house? How's the lot looking? Like, what's their neighbors looking like? Like, I like to, again, intel gathering. I usually have done that before, but again, I like to get there a few minutes before, and I'll just park my car somewhere until it's a little bit closer to time. I'm also seeing what's going on activity-wise. You know, maybe there's another appointment before me, and if there is, wait until that person leaves. And then I'll usually just drive up, show up. I'm like there like a minute before. Because I promise you, there's been times where I've showed up like 5-10 minutes, and literally the homeowner's like vacuuming still and freaking out, right? Well, you just added more stress to their life by showing up a little bit before you told them you're going to show up. You know, ring the doorbell. It's like, hey, my name's Fayaz. We had an appointment for 2:00. It's 2:00. I'm here. And, you know, so that I'm verbalizing professionalism. You told me we had an appointment for 2:00. It's 2:00. And you know, sometimes people are like, it's 2:00, looking at their watch. Some people don't even wear a watch. Don't pull out your phone to look at it, right? Don't do that. But that's, again, so many times agents will just show up late. But if you tell them, hey, this is we're setting the standard already. We had an appointment at 2:00. I'm here at 2:00. All right. Walk in. This is me. I'm respectful of people's space and how they live in their home. I don't want to assume. I always ask, hey, do you want me to take my shoes off? Some people don't want shoes in their house. Like, don't assume. And most people are like, no, you're good. Okay, cool. But again, I'm asking. I'm not assuming, right? If you're in, like, listen, in some cultures, like they feel uncomfortable asking you. So you prompting the question makes it much more comfortable for them to say, yes, if you don't mind, please take your shoes off, right? Again, you're building rapport and you're showing that you are aware of sensitivities. First thing I do, obviously, outside of entering the house, is I usually am like, hey, do you mind? They're not going to know where to put you. So I guide that conversation. I'm like, do you guys mind if we sit at the kitchen table? Because that's usually the best place. If it's the formal, maybe, but I usually prefer the kitchen table because, again, it's a little bit right there by the kitchen. Usually the living room's right there. Usually sometimes a little bit more open. Formal sometimes can be a little bit of a room, right? Depending on how the house is laid out. Like, I don't like sitting on the sofa in the living room. And there's reasons behind it. So I like sitting at the kitchen table. Make sure your computers are charged. I like putting my bag where I'm going to sit, and I'm going to frame the conversation. I want them to face me. Why is that? Okay. What is it? Yeah. I want them to face me. I would rather them sit like that. I'm like there. Why do I not want them like that? If I can help it.
Keep them from communicating.
That's right.
Without communicating with you.
That's right. I mean, how many of us can make an eye contact with our spouse or partner or whatever, and we know what the other person, like, you know? I want them to focus this way, not that way. Because if one person's not comfortable, that person will communicate it with the other person just from eyes. And then all of a sudden the other person starts getting uncomfortable. And they're looking at each other more than they're looking at me. There's a method to the madness, guys. Right? So that's what I prefer. I can't always control it that way. Put my computer down, pull it out. Cool. And then there's two ways to go about it. Sometimes people will just start walking the house and like, getting information like, yeah, will you mind leading me through the house and stuff like that. My personal preference is I like to sit down and then we actually go through some of the documentation that they already have. We talk about it. I do a presentation. Again, if it needs to be a presentation, sometimes if they're ready to sign, somebody gave me a great script that it's a good one. It's like, hey, outside of price in selling your home, is there anything else we need to talk about? I mean, boom. That is a get to the paperwork. I mean, straight up. What? Get it done. Outside of price, is there anything else that we need to talk about before we sign the paperwork?
Wait, we don't even say anything on your listing presentation. Go right there. Wow.
But isn't that a great script? Because now you're gonna find out. Then they're gonna tell you. They're gonna tell you. Well, yeah, Mr. Assumptive. Right. Like, yeah, we would like to know what your marketing looks like. We would like to know like what you're gonna do for us. Okay, cool. Well, let's talk about it. It's a script, but it shouldn't make you uncomfortable because you're planning on talking about it anyways. Right. But now, if they didn't care about it, then why are we talking about it? Boom, y'all. Right? You just saved yourself an hour. Maybe more. They're going to tell you what's important to them. Yeah, well, dummy, I want you to look at my house. Well, yeah, okay, let's do that. Yeah. Outside of price, is there anything else that we need to talk about before we sign the paperwork? I mean, like step one. Go ahead, y'all. Do it. Tell me who does it first. Tell me who does it first. I was like, yeah, get it. All right. Dude, I will be so proud of you. I will be so proud of you. That'd be badass. Listen, I mean, that's why I've told you guys, like, there's times when the client wants to sign and I'm the one that's making the appointment longer than it needs to be. Or I'm not asking for the business. It's my fault, not their fault. I do walk through the house. One thing I do is I take pictures with my cell phone because, listen, I'm like a squirrel. Like, I'm going to forget what maybe the house looks like and stuff like that. Also, like, here's another thing where it's helpful. Like, you get the listing appointment, you got to enter the information in the MLS. It's going to ask, was there tile in the bathroom? What kind of flooring was there? Was there carpet? I got pictures now. And usually my photographer doesn't go in until 3 days prior to listing. I'd rather have all that stuff ready to go. So I just save myself time. And I don't need to go back and ask the client, hey, by the way, did you have granite on the counter? Or was it one thing that I always forget, which the pictures help me with? Was it a gas stove? Was it an electric stove? But I had a picture of the kitchen and I'll just like zoom in, boom. I don't have to ask them. That shows attention to detail. And I've never had a client say, even if the house is a mess, right? I've never had a client say, no. I say, hey, listen, I'm just taking pictures for my information. So just in case I forget anything, these aren't going to be shared with anyone, which they aren't. They're just for me. However, you know where that's also helped me? Where the house is on the market, it might be a hot house, right? But my photographer hasn't gone in there. It's in coming soon status. And I have a potential agent who's like, hey, I've got an out-of-town buyer. Do you have anything on the house? I'll send them some of those pictures. I've gotten offers that way. Coming soon status. And I tell them, I was like, listen, the house isn't ready. You and I both know that. Relay that to your buyer client. But this is what I've got so far. At least they get a feel for what the house is like, right? We're going to get it clean. We're going to get it professionally photographed. We're going to get it professional. All that's coming. But if I just got a full price offer, and I don't have to put it on the market, I help my seller, I help myself. It's happened. All right. Walk through the house. We're doing the listing presentation if we need to, right? And then, guys, close the damn deal. Including Fayaz. Close the deal. Ask them for the business. Say, okay, hey, listen, anything else that we haven't discussed that's important to you? If not, let's go ahead and get this paperwork going and we'll get the process started. A lot of times, I mean, here's something that I've been using. I've got a whole vendor list, right? Carpet cleaning, this, paint, this, whatever it needs to be done. I'm like, I will organize all that for you, but I can't do that until you decide you want to hire me. And that is a great prompt also to get them to sign the paperwork with you. And they understand that you're actually working already by doing that. Your work doesn't start when the house goes active. You're working for weeks beforehand, depending on the time frame, right? And you have a value. We talk about value proposition. You have a value that you're bringing to the table when you have a number of vendors that they don't have to worry about. Think about it as a homeowner. How many horror stories have you heard out there? Oh, I hired a painter. Paint job sucks. I paid him a couple $1,000s. I hired a flooring installation guy. Did a job half-ass, right? I mean, that happens all the time. Your vendors are vetted. They are, and if there's ever a problem, you're there. Like, you're going to be able to pick up the phone and be like, hey, listen, my client's not happy with his job. Like, y'all need to go out there again, or we need to handle it. Use the vendors here. Like, they're good. We still use a lot of these guys. Okay. Now you got your listing agreement, and then obviously you're going to go take it from there. See? Easy. Done. Ahas?
My biggest one is, what else do we talk about?
What do you mean, what else you talk about?
No, like, just some of what you said about getting straight to the point and asking them outside of price, is there anything else you want to discuss to help them deal quicker? So that was really good.
Yeah.
Save time. That was my aha.
Confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence, right? And you can say that because, remember, you've done a lot of work before you even walked in the door. Now, if you haven't done anything, it's a little bit more difficult. But if you've collected the information, you've done the comps, you've created some rapport. I mean, listen, if they know you, that makes it sometimes even easier, right?
If you haven't done any work before you got there, you're talking about what, obviously you're not going to want to go in there. Maybe price is the most important thing to them, and that's what, again, I'm not making an assumption. I'm asking them a question, but in a very different, direct way, because I'm still giving them the opportunity to tell me what's important to them. I'm not forcing them to sign the paperwork and like, listen, this is it. Sign the paperwork or done, right? I'm asking them, outside of price, is there anything else that you would like to discuss today? So they can talk to you about I want to know how you're going to market my house. I want to know what the process is to sell the house. Hey, I need some help with getting my house ready to sell. Okay, cool. Now instead of having a full presentation, we're focusing on the things that they want to talk about that are important. And then if you want to add any more into that, that's up to you. What other ahas? Yeah, I don't like bothering them. Listen, if I have to, I have to. But if you're already in the house, take that proactive step ahead. It's the level of professionalism. It's like the calendar invite, right? I don't have to keep reminding them all the time. I sent you a calendar invite, cool. I might ping them a day or two in advance, be like, hey, just a reminder, you have an inspection tomorrow or the day before. Just want to give you a reminder, I sent you a calendar invite. Did you get it? If I take the photos up front, I'm saving myself so much time.
What if they don't want you to take photos because their house is messy, or if they just
Ain't really motivated.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. A lot of times people will say my house is messy. And that's why I say I make them comfortable by saying, I understand. No one's going to see this. This is not for public consumption. This is for me, right? If they're hiring you as your real estate agent, they need to give you all as much information as possible to help sell the house. I was like, this is just for me so that I can remember. And one thing I say is man, I walk into so many houses every day. Sometimes it all runs together, which is true, right? And as a human on the other end, that person, they understand that. I was like, this is just for memory for me. So I also understand the flow of your house and finishings and things like that. that person might be worried about the messiness, but they shouldn't be worried about like your motivation behind it. They should actually be. So remember, we're teammates. We're working together to sell your house. Like, work with me here. Right? Now, if they're really, really opposed, then don't do it. If they really insist, I mean, I'm not going to like try to piss them off, right? Unnecessarily. Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what I used to do back in the day. I just had my notebook and I'm like, room 1, living room, like, and like even in I'm writing notes. That you should also be doing that. You should be writing notes throughout the process, right? But yes, I did what he's saying. You can also print off from the MLS, like the input sheet. So it tells you, like, it asks you what's required. It takes more time though. That's why I personally don't like filling out that document when I'm at the appointment, because it's a lot. It takes time. If I have photos, boom, I can go back home and do it on my own calmly. Photos will tell you everything that you need. That's right. I know. I mean, another thing that I forget, was there a fireplace? I remember, was there a fireplace or not? Because some houses have it, some houses don't. The stoves, the fireplaces, the flooring type, especially tile. I forget. I'm like, was there tile in the bathroom or was it of linoleum? Like, I'll forget that. That's right. And you got multiple bathrooms. Because a lot of times the master bath will be nicer than the other secondary bathroom. So you might have tile in the master bathroom, but you might not have tile in the... And then let's think about it. You might have LVP or laminate throughout the house, but maybe the laundry room is not that. And then also another important thing is I've done where I've had houses before where, like, I remember they had like a 1.5 story and the upstairs was unfinished, but it was like a really great storage space. And I was like, man, that plus the acreage you're on is actually more of a selling feature than the kitchen, than the living room. So I took nice pictures of that. And I remember when I was selling the house, man, it was a free-for-all because everybody wanted that damn storage space. Because you could either keep it the way it was or you could finish it off into another bedroom and a bathroom up top. And I was like, this is going to sell your house. Because that 3-bedroom all of a sudden was a possibility of a 4-bedroom. And it was ready to go. These are the things, like, I'm thinking a couple steps ahead. You're doing it to help them sell their house, not to like expose weaknesses in their house. You're their advocate. Okay? What else we got? How has your thinking changed about listings?
So her and I was talking yesterday after our contract test, and I was telling her how I work with buyers only, and like listings scare me because I feel like it was like more responsibility. But I think after today, I feel a little more secure with the listing that we receive. So I feel more comfortable with getting a listing or attempting to get a listing. So I'm not as nervous as I was before.
Yeah, it's good. Listen, it's different, but it doesn't mean that it has to like freeze you. Okay, awesome.
You can kind of go into it with like the mindset of like you can be the agent who you want to be, and like also they're not your clients yet, so like you don't really have much to lose. Like just go in there, just do your thing, Right.
Yeah.
Kind of takes a little pressure off.
Yeah. We were asking like, how has your thinking changed and like your mindset changed like now, post class?
Definitely more confidence because I had no idea.
Yeah. And the more you do it, guys, the easier it gets. I promise you, like even after this class, you're gonna be nervous. That's okay. It's gonna happen, right? And then everyone has their style. You make it your own. Just like when you're working with your buyers, I promise you the way you work with your buyers is different than the way she works with her buyers. Everyone's got their style. It's cool. There is a foundation of like common practices. Like, we talk about showing up on time, like being dressed professionally, and like those kinds of things like should be like your baseline. And then you add on the layers. So it's no different than when we build a business, right? When we talk about the MREA, your foundation of systems and processes is kind of consistent and the same, and then you add your creativity on top of that. But master the foundation first, and then add creativity. I think a lot of times what we start to do, because we're more comfortable with the creativity, is we don't focus on the foundation. And my team and my business, the foundation is hella strong. And you can ask my team that, and then we add creativity on top of that. Because what did I tell you? For the first 2 years, my listing presentation was literally like a template, and it wasn't even as nice as what you guys have got, right? So my creativity wasn't all that great, but my foundation of how I walked into a place, the information that I provided, the systems and the processes, the organizational structure that I did was super strong. And then now I can get creative on top of that. Cool?
Yeah.
All right. How are your behaviors going to be different now?
Kind of going off what you were saying.
More confidence. That's the biggest. I'm so nervous to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm nervous about materials and pricing the home. Those are the things that I'm more nervous about than I am actually dealing with the client.
Okay.
It's like pricing it wrong, or am I going to do that right, or all that stuff.
Yeah.
When the client kind of said this question, would you say, before we talk about the price, you know, what else do you want to talk about before we sign the papers? Instead of going in and asking a bunch of questions that they probably don't even want to talk about. You know.
I'm gonna add on to that script though, because we're gonna close it right then and there. Outside of price, is there anything else you want to talk about? You stopped right there. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we sign the paperwork?
Okay.
That's important. That closing statement is important. The assumptive close is there, right? Cool. No, I know.
After
But
you're done talking to them about everything, how do you bring up the paperwork? Do you say, okay,
yeah, so yeah, and it was like, okay, cool. Well, listen, I had a lady. Oh, this is a great story. I had a lady. She was in Waterside of the Catawba, and before I even walked in the door, she said, "Listen, I'm interviewing multiple agents." I was like, "Cool." And I literally own a townhome as a rental unit next door to her, but she didn't know me from that. She found me on social media, right? And I went in. We did the whole presentation, and she was the boss. He's over there, but she's the boss, right? And we were jiving, like we were like having fun, like whatever. And then her big thing, remember I told you like what's the value proposition, right? She was like, hey, we want to move to Florida. We want to build a house. Cool. All right. And she got 2 kids, teenagers. His room was a little bit of a mess. And then she was like, well, I got to do this, this, and this. I'm like, why? She's like, well, that's what we got to do. I'm like, why? And I said, listen, I need you to like literally regurgitate all the things that are in your head, all these concerns and worries and problems right now, and let's answer them because I probably got the solution. And she said, well, I was like, well, do you need to sell this house to buy that house? She's like, no. I was like, well, why don't you just move to Florida? She's like, we can do that? I was like, yeah. I was like, in fact, I'd rather you get out of the house. Go. I was like, I'll help you. Oh, she's like, oh my God. She's like, well, that just takes a whole lot of stress out of my mind. I was like, yeah. So I was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Carpet was a mess. I was like, we need to get carpet. We need to get paint. We need to do this. Pack up. If you need movers, I got movers for you. I had all the things ready, right? And at the end, she's like, I was like, okay, cool. I was like, well, like, you want to, I was like, we can work together. She's like, well, you know, I've got to interview some more people. I was like, did I not just solve the problems that you just said you had? She said, yeah. I was like, aren't we friends right now? She said, yes. I literally said this. Like, this is not like, I said this. This is how I talk. I was like, aren't we just buddies and friends right now? She said, yes. I was like, then why the hell are you wasting your time? I was like, let's go. She said, okay, let's go. Got the paperwork signed. She moved down to Florida. We're still Facebook friends, right? I mean, like, that's what I'm talking about. I was like, sometimes I'm just like that. You know, it's like, hey, I just did everything. What else is there? Yesterday, I picked up a lead, and she was like, well, she's like, all these people are blowing me up. I'm like, yeah, cool. I just saved your time. You're talking to the best agent anyway, so you don't need to waste your time. I've actually had a situation before where, and this is a one, where she was like, hey, another agent had come in before me. She's like, yeah, but I need to, this is a very bold type of thing. She's like, yeah, but I feel like she came in and I feel like I need to, she hadn't signed any paperwork. I was number 2 in the door. I said, she's like, yeah, but I don't know how to, she's like, I need to tell her. And I was like, don't worry about it. I'll do it for you. I picked up the phone. I called the other agent. I was like, hey, listen. Oh, no, agent was coming in. The agent was coming in after me for an appointment. I was like, hey, listen, I just want to let you know that the client's decided to sign. I didn't want you to waste your time and like just, make a trip unnecessarily. Agent was not happy, but it is what it is. Like, I picked up the phone. I said, hey, listen, Joan or whatever her name was, I don't know. She's like, oh, that's a Keller Williams script. I'm like, sorry. She literally said, that's like Keller Williams. I was like, that's not right. I'm like, but she should honestly be like, hey, you didn't waste my time to drive and spend the time. The client decided to sign the paperwork with me. But the client didn't. I've done that twice where I've picked up the phone on behalf of the client because the client didn't want to have that conversation. Come on, man, we're ready. Didn't want to. It's tough for them to have a conversation, so I picked up the phone on their behalf, called the agent, and was like, "Hey, the client's decided to sign with me. I just want to let you know out of respect, so that and to not waste your time." Cool, we're good. Perfect timing.
Thank you, Alex. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very, very much. Don't walk out of here with that microphone attached to you.
Oh yeah. It's like what is it? What is it on?